When you get out of shape, you learn to have a certain distrust for the signals your body is sending you because, like, let's say back when I was much more out of shape, my body told me I was hungry all the time. I wasn't really hungry, it was sending me whacked out signals, you know? So you learn to distrust those signals. When you're in a state like that, getting external input, like a glucose monitor or things to help assess your sleep, it helps reset you where you start to trust those internal control loops a little bit more, which was helpful for me.
Yeah, good feedback that way.
Yeah, you just get good feedback and you can make more informed decisions. When I first did it, it was really interesting for me because I won't say I'm like perfect strict keto all the time. I probably cycle in and out like on a 1 to 2 week time scale. I'll have some social event that I'm not willing to like be a weird keto monster and I'll, you know, have whatever, but it was really interesting for me to see the different impacts on blood sugar while wearing the glucose monitor there, because you can make informed decisions. Like, as an example, like if I have a pastry or bread or something, I skyrocket, but I can have ice cream and it's like pretty blunted.
Hello friends, it's Mike Mutzel here with High Intensity Health. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. Today we're with my friend Tabb Firchau, and he is the founder and CEO of Freefly Systems. We met online.
Yep.
And you've experienced a lot of personal
Sounds
benefit.
bad. It's not bad.
On Twitter, and you reached out to me on Twitter and you said, you know, I really want to get a lot of my employees doing intermittent fasting and maybe, you know, get them on MCT oil and things like that. And so I looked into your company, and being that I love video, I was like, oh my gosh, Freefly, the Movi. So we're going to talk about intermittent fasting, time restricted feeding, your personal experience with that, and how it's helped you channel creativity and manage teams under times of stress. Is running a busy company, $35 million in revenue, roughly, right? 70 employees now?
Not quite, but somewhere around 60.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about all that stuff, but first I just want to set the foundation for how innovative your company is and what you guys are doing. So Tabb has been flying drones before drones were a thing.
Yeah, they were just called toy helicopters back then.
Yeah.
So toy helicopters that I built on my mom's kitchen countertop.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how does this creativity and this engineering, like, where does this come from?
I mean, my whole life I've just not liked when people tell me no, so I'd say it comes from there. I just like, I like doing things that people haven't done before, so I've always managed to find specific vectors that have opportunity for big disruption. You know, when I was a 3-year-old, that meant taking apart my mom's vacuum and disrupting in that manner, but as you get older, you have to find a way that you can disrupt in a productive manner that actually brings people to you that want to help in your endeavor rather than pushes people away by breaking their vacuum.
Right.
So for me, it really started because I wanted to create aerial images that the world hadn't seen before. And the best way I could think of to do that without actually killing myself in a helicopter was figuring out how to shoot from drones, you know, or toy helicopters at the time. So that led to a long period of exploration and kind of technical tinkering, trying to figure out the nuts and bolts of flying cameras on these really mundane helicopters back in the day. Not mundane, but super, you know, home built and super sketchy design, very unreliable. You almost had to be a musician where you knew exactly what to do and exactly what the right time was, or they'd just explode. And eventually I met great people along the way. I met Dave and I met Hugh, I met Megan. And I started reaching out to these people and saying, hey, could you help in this one specific area? Could you help in this one specific area? Dave, could you help solve these technical problems? Hugh, can you help me do better creative work, better cinematography? And eventually we got to the point where the system we had created was working pretty well. And we made the decision just to try and experiment and transition from a service-only business. So in the first model, we were flying around the world, actually filming for places like BBC, Nat Geo, Planet Earth, that kind of stuff. But then we decided we were going to make a change and try and sell this thing that we'd created. We'd been getting a lot of interest from other people. And that was about 6 years ago. We started Freefly, and it's just been growing like crazy ever since. We have no external investment, no venture capital, just a completely organically built company with awesome people. The owners kicked in about 30 grand to kick the thing off, and
oh my gosh, that's it.
Off we went.
Yeah,
there's definitely been companies throughout time that have wanted to acquire Freefly, but at every point the owners have felt like we're just getting to the point where we've created this awesome thing that can do just about anything. So it'd be such a bummer to bail out at this point. And also I don't think anybody is really driven just by financial rewards that works here. So it makes it much easier to say no to the big G and move on.
Yeah, because the journey is part of the reward.
Yeah,
you guys
absolutely.
love what you're doing and stuff.
Well, and the other thing is I can't, you know, say we did do that, I can't imagine what I would do on Monday. I'd be trying to tackle these very same issues without the stellar team.
Right. Maybe biometric health, wearables,
Yeah,
trackables, that's where you would go.
That's where I'd go for sure.
We'll talk about the Oura ring later and stuff like that. But, I think it's a really important, just to kind of pick apart what you said right there, not only are you stabilizing an image, but you're having to add lift to it. So there's a lot of moving parts, because to get a cool shot, like to get to places where a helicopter can't go, on a ski slope, or to get animals wherever it might be unsafe to humans, that's the application in the cinematography space for like a drone that you make.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Like the Alta.
Yeah, exactly. So back in the day, I kind of analyzed the cinema space, and I thought we have these helicopters doing these really high up shots. We have people on the ground doing a variety of things, from Steadicam to jibs. But there's this whole in-between space from 75 feet to 500 feet where no one's seen what the world looks like from that space. And back then, I kind of started investigating it, and there was just the very start of this kind of movement. There were maybe 10 other people in the world investigating the same stuff. And I kind of, much like I have in the health kind of quest lately, I reached out to them, quickly formed this little community, and we all kind of tackled it together and had these small triumphs where one of us would get a good photo and share it with the rest of the group. And it was a really exciting time, because basically every time you went out, nothing ever worked. So when you did get something awesome, it was really meaningful.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's really neat. And then so you've kind of morphed that. Did you tackle the air cinematography first with the Alta, and then the Movi came next?
Way back in the day, we had the Cinestar, which is like the precursor to either of those, which was really simple kit for aerial cinematographers to use to carry, DSLRs back in the day with multi-rotors. And then as things progressed, we built the Alta, which is like a fully integrated version of that, and then eventually came out with the Movi, which that's what most people know us for. We took the technology that we had originally built for flying machines and turned it into a handheld gimbal. And then so over the last 4 years, that gimbal has powered a lot of the TV and movies that you might have seen. A lot of the really smooth shots that you see is powered by technology that was developed by us or people that have created things similar to what we created.
Yeah, so a lot of people at home that watch Game of Thrones or whatever, like those shots that are really smooth, that's on the gimbal, the Movi, where someone's walking or running, but it looks very stable.
Yeah, and funny enough, when we first created the Movi, I had worked for Game of Thrones previously, and they saw what we'd created, and they said, we need one of these over here immediately. And I said, there's only 2 in the world right now. And they're like, you got to get one over. So we took one of the 2 prototypes. It was like unanodized and really rough, flew it over to where they were filming, and they used it like right away for some of the scenes. And they've used Movi ever since to create a variety of special effects, from like the dragon's POV to the wolf's POV, all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah.
So they've been a fun partner.
That's amazing. So it's really the creative shots, that's what, like your technology. I mean, if you were to summarize that, like you're enabling artists, cinematographers and producers and whatever, to get these really creative shots that, like you've said before, that viewers haven't seen before.
Yeah.
You're kind of like the Uber of the cinematography space.
Kind of.
Because you were telling me
maybe a little slightly different cultural vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, especially.
No offense to Uber. Don't kill me.
And we all use them still, and stuff like that. But because in the flip side, if we were a small startup, we wanted to make a movie together, right? Prior to the Alta, which is the high-end drone that can fly cinema cameras, we would have to pay a helicopter how much per day?
I don't even know. Probably back in the day for professional work is $10,000 to $15,000 a day for a full-size helicopter and a big gimbal. Yeah, but I would say primarily the thing with the Movi is we allow people to move the camera anywhere they want to move, but keep it perfectly stable. Because for anybody that's tried to film anything, whether it's on your iPhone or on a camera, you have this beautiful image in your mind of how the shot's going to turn out. I'm going to smoothly move over here and zoom in on this subject and then transition over here. And you try and do that shot and it looks terrible because it's really hard to move cameras smoothly. Yeah. So that's our core value add to the world is we allow you to move your camera from point A to point B and do it in a way that people will love watching.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Really amazing stuff. So let's talk about the recent product, and we'll get into health stuff that you just launched, the Movi XL, right? And so if we've seen like Ronin, I think of Ronin, I think it was in Quebec or something, and there's Audi A6s or S6s, whatever, going through the street. So to create that stabilized car chasing scene, what would you have normally need to do that?
Yeah, historically they have these kind of custom built cars with cranes on top and these big gimbals that can swoop all around called camera cars. So it's stuff like that. They're really expensive. Just the same story with helicopter. They're really expensive. They're really specialized. They're hard to get a hold of. They're very hard to operate. I've worked on tons of sets with them over the years, and it takes a whole dedicated crew to really do that. So we kind of tried to take that and reimagine it and figure out a way that lower budget filmmakers can create almost the same effect by essentially this Movi XL and bolting it onto a minivan or bolting it onto whatever your rental car is. You know, we've come up with a system that can slide in a trailer hitch and bolt the Movi XL to it, and you're up and filming in 15 minutes. So
amazing, like a rental car.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so cool.
Or like, you know, the Razor stuff we have back here.
Yeah, we took a joyride a few months ago in the parking lot, and you were trying to get the thing to shake and brake, and it didn't work. And there's so much that we could talk about on this, because I'm personally very interested in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's very, I want people to understand it's very high risk, right? When you're flying around a cinema camera that costs maybe $10,000 to $20,000 with lenses, and you crash that, it's not like the DJI drone that costs $1,500 and they have a great repair program, right?
Yeah. You know? I crashed, one of my personal worst moments was I crashed when the Red Epic. Red's a digital cinematography company, and one of the very first 10 that came out, I crashed into the Salton Sea. We had some kind of failure on the helicopter, which, you know, failures were common back then, and crashed into the Salton Sea, and we had to spend the whole day swimming around for it. It was just awful. So that camera back then was $60,000. We had a $20,000 lens on it. I probably had 40 or 50,000 bucks into the helicopter, so I dunked 120, 130K into the Salton Sea, which is the 7th saltiest body in the world, I think.
Oh my gosh! So what happened?
I just cried.
Did you get it? Was anything salvageable?
We got it back. Nothing was salvageable. It was so salty that by the time we pulled it out, it looked like it had been underwater for 100 years.
Oh my gosh!
It was crazy because it had current. It was battery powered, and there's still current flowing through this, so the corrosion was just unbelievable.
In that short period of time. That's crazy. Before I forget, so a lot of folks that have been tuning into the channel have noticed that we've been adding a lot of aerial shots thanks to you. So I want to have a moment of gratitude, because after we met, took a walk, and started chatting, I told you that I was very interested in getting a drone. You gave me a DJI Phantom 4.
Yeah.
She's like, dude, that's so amazing. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's good to see you shooting with it.
That's cool.
You had a little crash story of your own.
In a drone, in a zoo in Toronto, where I was not supposed to be flying, and as you told me and educated me, they dissipate power very, very quickly in cold weather. So it did a forced landing, and I was looking down at bison. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in so much trouble. And thankfully it hit a branch and flew on the other side, so I got it.
Mike Mutzel killed by animal and zoo after drone crash.
Oh, I
had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. So is it fair to say, so there's been a lot of interest in making drones. A lot of people, a lot of companies are taking on the small little drones. I don't even know what the new little one now that can take selfies for you.
Oh yeah, Spark.
Yeah, DJI a lot of people. Yeah. Actually, funny story before I get into that. We were in Lake Tahoe a few weeks ago, and this guy had another one. I can't remember what it was, and everyone was drinking out in Emerald Bay and stuff, and he was flying this drone around, and he thought it was so cool. It just took right into the water.
Oh no. Little one or big one?
It was a little one. Okay. It was like a Spark, something similar.
Good.
Yeah, but he thought he was the hottest thing, flying the drone around.
If you think you're really cool and smart, a good way to strip yourself of that opinion is to take up droning.
Yeah, it's a little humbling. Hey?
Yeah, it's very humbling.
Yeah, very interesting. One thing that I was going to say is, have these companies copied your technology?
I mean, definitely, like a lot of people in the space have taken inspiration from our company, whether it's technological inspiration, marketing. There's been some copying for sure, but I think that's just a product of the market that we exist in right now. I think, unless you want to become a company that spends all day and all of its effort enforcing patents, really the only way to compete with that kind of thing is to out-innovate. So you have to build an innovative culture that, that can outstrip the competition no matter what the challenges are.
Yeah, that's what my next question is, how do you deal with that? And so it's just keep innovating, make technology a little bit better.
You just win.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because otherwise you're going to spend a lot of effort and resources and legal costs that may or may not do anything.
Yeah, and kind of a personal philosophical belief, if you become a company that's always trying to do patent enforcement, it shifts the culture of the company to one that does patent enforcement, not one that innovates and creates new products that the world is blown away by. So. Obviously, there's some companies that manage to do both well, but at the scale that we're at, it's really difficult to do these different things well and not have it take up the whole company's time.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about diet and nutrition.
Yeah.
Like on walks that we've talked about, you said to me, like the mental clarity that I experienced with a ketogenic style diet has been profound to, even my team reports back to me, how much more of an even keel I am when I'm under stress.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
What kind of got you down that road?
Kind of the long story would be starting Freefly took an inordinate amount of time and effort, And when you're in that kind of period of crunch mode where it's really make it or break it, if you don't have a good framework set up for yourself and boundaries for health and wellness, you fall into horrible traps where you're eating bad stuff and doing bad things. And I think during that process, I had kind of drifted, and you also don't realize how fast or how far you've drifted off of the set point that you originally wanted to achieve. And so I just had a moment for sure where I checked in with myself, like saw a video or photo or something. I was like, wow, I've gotten way, way, way out of shape. I need to rein this in. And I just kind of dove in there and assessed the kind of what was going on in the world and that means, because I'd kind of become disconnected and kind of jumped into the paleo bandwagon at that point, and then just really started paying attention to things and trying to hone in my own kind of personal control loop to provide better feedback for myself. And then eventually, I don't know, maybe about a year ago, kind of, I think just started reading about keto stuff with respect to longevity, and just started trying it and just noticing a lot of things that I really liked as far as mental clarity and emotional resiliency, and just felt like I had more overhead to deal with stuff. And it also just, I was doing, during different parts, I've been doing intermittent fasting and ketogenic diet, and it's just nice to actually not have to have the decision fatigue of trying to figure out, like, am I eating the perfect meal? Am I doing this? You just, push that off, and I'll eat something great when I get home. Eat a big bowl of veggies and a big chunk of grass-fed beef, and off we go, and I don't have to worry about it during the day.
Right. So you mean being in a state of nutritional ketosis enables that flexibility of not really having to eat, because you can really go for prolonged periods of time without food?
The thing for me, like, I think I kind of fat adapted really slowly, and so once I got there, it just was incredible flexibility. Like, I can go out on a 1 or 2 day shoot and I'm not like stressed out about food. It's actually kind of funny. On our last shoot, people were eating like every 3 hours. I was like, we got to eat again.
Like, we got work to do, guys.
Let's just go. we just had breakfast 2 hours ago. Let's shoot. We got to shoot. So that's been a profound difference for me, realizing how long you can go without food. Actually, and one of the things it really did, I was reading this, you're probably familiar with the details of the study, but reading this study from a while ago where a guy had done like I want to say a 397 day fast, and just was fine. He was morbidly obese to start with, and then was like pretty normal height, weight at the end. So that really was like, oh, you really, if you have a significant amount of extra energy in your body, you can go for a long time. Yeah,
that's pretty amazing. It is interesting being around people that don't eat this way that we're talking about, because it's literally their body, their metabolism, their insulin sensitivity is such that they can't go for those extended periods of time without the food. So let's talk about, you said it took you a while to keto adapt.
Yeah.
So when you and so forth, it took you longer than maybe you have thought, whatever. What did that look like? Were there periods of times where you would have like hypoglycemic type symptoms, or?
No, I would say like mainly what I was doing when I first starting was I would like fast during the point where I really got heavy into keto. I would fast throughout the day, and I'd have sometimes just a bulletproof coffee in the morning, or some kind of fatty coffee, fatty tea, and I would just notice that like maybe around noon or something I would start to get that feeling of like I need something else. But now I can wake up, go hike around, whatever, go to the gym. You find yourself like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. Haven't eaten. That's interesting.
So you haven't eaten yet today?
Have I eaten anything? Okay. I don't think so. No.
So you normally refeed around 7 p.m. or so when you get home?
Yeah, it depends. I've been playing around with it a little bit since I've, lots of changes in the maybe the 6 month time scale. Like ever since I met you, I've started lifting weights and trying to do some strength training. So I've been just kind of experimenting around with things and playing with that depending on when I'm working out and fueling around there. There's still tons of ambiguity for me around there. So
I think it's good to just always test, right? Like if you're training really hard, it doesn't make sense to totally fast.
Yeah.
Like then refeed so you have a good workout. You don't want to like work out and feel like shit, not have a good workout.
Yeah, for sure.
So
and the other thing I've found is just trying to dial in sleep. Like during the beginning of my keto exploration and fasting, super good sleep. And then I had a period where I wasn't sleeping as well, and I kind of started experimenting with like a little bit of carbohydrates before bed. That kind of helped me. So it's tough because there's so many factors to pick apart. Like, has the stress increased in your life? Has this? So to try and, I don't know. My view on it now is I try to come up with like a menu of goods that I can apply to a variety of different situations depending on what particular things are present in life. Like if it's a super stressful time at work and we have a product launch coming up and there's, you know, a lot of stuff to do, then you can use these tools that you have in your toolbox to combat it. But when things are more mellow, then you can settle into, you know, more static model.
I love that. I wish more people had that mindset, because they're always looking for the one protocol to follow.
Yeah.
But life is undulating. There's a variety of circumstances. Like you said, a product launch, a new baby, new job, travel, whatever.
You got to be able to adapt.
Yeah. And then pick and choose and say, okay, so I'm stressed out, I'm not getting to sleep. Well, you know, maybe I might need to alter my diet or alter my training. I may not recover as well. So getting people to the place where they can think for themselves. But as a business owner, entrepreneur, like, you're used to doing that anyway, right? Responding to the market. So people, you take that mindset, apply it to health, which is great.
Yeah, it's great when you're traveling too. Like, I had to go to China for a business trip recently, and it's nice to just know that you have that card in your back pocket where it's like, if they bring a bunch of terrible food that I don't want to eat, I'll just skip it. And I'll refuel when I get back to my next big stop.
Right. Yeah. Pretend like you're having some so you're not being rude. But
exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's really funny. So how has implementing training, specifically weight training, how it was the exercise modality that, if we haven't mentioned, that you like to incorporate in addition to hiking and long walks with your business partners, how has that benefited things?
So I'm sleeping much better. I think muscle mass has increased pretty substantially since doing it. I've been wearing a blood glucose monitor occasionally since doing it, and I noticed just a big impact in maybe my average blood glucose, as well as my ability to respond, like bring back my blood sugar levels down, bring them down after eating something that I have a negative reaction to from a, you know, like I would say my goal is to keep it low and flat usually. So when you do get a spike when I am lifting, it comes right back down. And I would say just, it's tough to say, between lifting and the sauna, those two things have just made a remarkable difference in the way I feel. I feel like the ability to, I don't know, I started meditating too. So all those things together have allowed me to feel like I can disconnect from the moment a little bit and see things pull back and see it from an aerial view, I guess, to use an analogy from Freefly. So I'd say just better clarity, better energy levels and more consistent energy levels. Getting back into lifting has been really, it's like the thing I look forward to at lunch, you know, to get to go do something active, like whether if it's a weight training day or ski erg day or whatever, it really gets me excited and provides like a little outlet for me to have some alone time. That's
so cool. And you're inspiring other employees to get back into it. And we were talking about where could you put a gym here, and that's amazing.
Trying to.
That's so cool.
A lot of times all it takes is a tiny little push, you know, like I've started a lot of stuff that's had a really meaningful impact in my life just from chats with you, you know, like just one time we were on a walk and talking about how great you thought sauna was, and sauna was never anything that was even on my radar. I'd never heard anything about it, never researched it or anything. I started doing it and it makes a huge difference. It's one of my, you know, I try and get 3 or 4 sauna sessions a week now, and it's like those are 3 of my all-time 20-minute favorite chunks. Go in there and listen to a podcast, listen to Audible. Oh, pro tip for the sauna: if your phone shuts down, get the towel wet with cold water, wrap it around. If you have a new waterproof phone, wrap it around the phone. Off you go.
Oh, really?
You listen to Audible for 20 minutes at least.
That's awesome. I usually put mine on the floor because it's a little cooler, but it still sometimes overheats. That's an awesome tip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I figure Apple can't deny my warranty claim too, because they'll be like, why does this phone once every other day go to 180 degrees Fahrenheit? We can't figure this out. They won't realize I've been in the sauna with it.
Oh my gosh.
Don't tell Apple.
Yeah, that is too funny. So in addition to the weight training, walking has been a huge element of not only channeling creativity and talking over problems. And if people have read Steve Jobs's, he was famous for this. We'll go on walks instead of just sit down and have a meeting. So I know you and Dave, and we went on the steep hill, you know, in Windmill right behind us. It's really cool. So in addition to that, were you doing the walking before? Okay.
Yeah, I would say walk and chats have been kind of a staple of Freefly for a long time. Whenever we have a difficult problem to solve, a couple people, 2 people, 3 people will head out for a walk. I mean, if you got to talk about something for a while, it's better to do it while walking, I think. So,
because people get they sit down, they want to get up, they have to go to the bathroom, they want to check their phone, on a walk.
I think the movement helps, being outside helps. I think there's also a component where when you're walking and you're looking forward, it's less combative and maybe personal than when you're just sitting looking eye to eye. When you have difficult technical issues to address, or if there's something confrontational or some kind of behavior you need changed, or it's just, I find most people can express their needs more clearly when you're moving forward, and maybe it's not quite so combative, like looking directly at each other.
Yeah.
It provides other stuff to distract you and move the things along too.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's a really good tip. Yeah, I love that. Someone I do business with, Ben Lynch, he's been on the podcast. We always like do our meetings that way too. Paddleboarding and walking, and it's like,
it's great.
We just talk through stuff, and then there's no pressure. If it's a little awkward, or you kind of don't want to go there, but you know you need to, it's a lot easier when you're moving.
Yeah, for sure.
So I love that. All right, so you mentioned for a while, and are you still wearing the continuous glucose monitor, or are you?
Yeah, I've kind of been off and on of just checking in. I think I have my mental model with how I react to the things that I eat on a regular basis is pretty dialed in at this point. So I kind of have just been doing it to check in every once in a while. But lots of people around here have also done it since I bought a bunch of them from the UK.
Oh,
so
you did?
Hugh did it, and my business partner Hugh did it, learned a bunch of stuff. I hooked Chase Jarvis up and Kate with ones, and they did it. So I think they learned some interesting things. It's really fun to watch people use it for the first time and be like, oh, I can't believe this thing that I love so much does this to my blood sugar. This is crazy. So it's been fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, to carry that conversation a little bit further, I mean, there was an article that so many people in the health space were sharing. Yeah. And you were highlighted and interviewed by it.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was, for folks, if you're listening to this, you remember it was, I think, I want to say it was May range. Yeah. Time Magazine interviewed a local, Seattle, Washington-based tech company. They promised they would put the name of the company in there, but they didn't in the article. But that was you featured in the article. Yeah. So again, here you are kind of innovating. So a lot of like Rob Wolf, Mark Hyman, all these people were sharing that article. It got read a lot. What inspired you to get into that?
Into the blood glucose monitor? Yeah. I mean, just like we spend all of our day at work on the engineering side of things, collecting data from sensors and then analyzing that data and then trying to make informed decisions based off it. So it's just kind of that's the methodology of problem solving here. Mm-hmm. And so I guess kind of backing up a step too, when you get out of shape, you learn to have a certain distrust for the signals your body is sending you, because like let's say back when I was much more out of shape, my body told me I was hungry all the time. I wasn't really hungry, it was sending me whacked out signals, So you learn to distrust those signals. So when you're in a state like that, getting external input like a glucose monitor or things to help assess your sleep, it helps reset you to a level where you start to trust those internal control loops a little bit more, which was helpful for me.
Yeah, good feedback that way.
Yeah, you just get good feedback and you can make more informed decisions. It was, when I first did it, it was really interesting for me because I won't say I'm like perfect strict keto all the time. I probably cycle in and out like on a 1 to 2 week time scale. I'll have some social event that I'm not willing to like be a weird keto monster, and I'll have whatever. But it was really interesting for me to see the different impacts on blood sugar while wearing the glucose monitor there, because you can make informed decisions. Like as an example, like if I have a pastry or bread or something, I skyrocket, but I can have ice cream and it's like pretty blunted.
Interesting. So, what do you think the fat load associated with that?
I would guess, I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, for me it was stress related to travel.
Yeah, like that was an interesting one for me too.
Yeah, shot way up, and it would come down quickly, but I was really like, it was nerve wracking. Like we hear about how traveling can be, for a business can be not so health promoting, and that was a real good example for me.
Yeah, it's nice to know that, so you can take steps to, okay, I know if I'm going to travel, I need to go for a long walk, or I need to do this, or I need to come up with whatever strategies to allow me to cope.
Yeah. Or meditate beforehand, or do the sauna the morning before, whatever it may be. Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned there's a lot of reasons why you're personally interested in keto for fat loss and all that, but you mentioned longevity too. So if you were to turn to someone and say, the ketogenic diet is good for, what would you say? Like, are you mostly personally interested in the longevity aspect of it or mental performance?
Both. I would say it's some form of a diet that has some amount of ketosis in it allows me to maintain the metabolic composition that I'm happy with, the cognitive performance I'm happy with, and it allows me to do some of the things that I believe will help from a longevity standpoint. Because like if you kind of approach this from a research point of view and you look, okay, what's the research in longevity? Really, I would say that most people will say the only thing that shows any impact is calorie restriction, and I'm really not interested in calorie restriction as a long-term solution because it's miserable. So this is the thing that, from the research I've done, gets you as close to that without making your life miserable.
Totally. Yeah, and what you're doing, this element of time-restricted feeding and kind of compressing that feeding window, mirrors many of the metabolic, like Walter Longo and those other, Mark Mass and a lot of those people have shown that is as effective as crunching down your calories to like 30% of what you would normally eat.
For me, at the core though, it it allows me to continue. Like, I've only felt better since doing all these changes. If I didn't feel better, I'd reevaluate what I was doing. It's worked well with my genotype and physiology, so it's been just a positive thing overall. It's made decisions easier. It's made my workload easier. You know, I don't know if it'll make me live longer. If it did, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that. What you just said, like making decisions, you know, easier workload, because you just went through a big product launch, and and I think that was probably, if I'm not mistaken, one of the biggest product launches since this transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you compare that to, say, just the Mobi, right? In terms of being able to, you know, because you were talking to me at cash flow, there's a lot of money involved in, you know, creating R&D and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of at stake here.
Yeah.
You know, you're juggling teams and making sure that orders are all that, right? So there's a lot there. Would you say mentally you were better equipped from a metabolic perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say, you know, anecdotally, my emotional resiliency feels much higher on a ketogenic or low carb diet, with some time restricted feeding element in there. Just, I don't know why, you just feel like you have more gas in the tank. I feel like I can put up with more bullshit before I lose it.
Yeah. And people, your employees have responded to you and said, you know what, this is a little different.
Yeah.
Something going on.
For sure.
Yeah. And so has that inspired them to make, you know, nutritional lifestyle changes?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been, you know, people around here have definitely cycled into trying ketosis for a while, trying ketogenic diet, trying all different kinds of stuff. Like, you know, just as a side note, like we used to have donuts on Friday for the team. We switched that to bacon. So it's still a treat. It's still, you know, people will be like, oh, bacon's not that healthy. I agree, that's fine. You should eat grass-fed beef if you're going to have some meat. But if your options are donut or bacon, I would still go bacon.
Yeah, definitely. I agree 100%. That's really awesome. And so so just seeing this from the top level, right, and seeing your transition, weight loss, more mental clarity, et cetera, it must be really inspiring for a lot of people, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to have people come up and ask you, like, hey, what are you doing? You're like getting some traction, you're looking better, you're doing more pull-ups these days, like what's going on? And it's fun to have people come up and organically ask you about that and get a chance to provide whatever feedback you have. So,
totally. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you see yourself getting into health in any way? I mean, you know all the technology, right? I mean, we've kind of talked about even like this, like the Oura ring and other things. Some of them are not.
Yeah, I'd love to. I would absolutely love to. Like when I think about things that I could do if I wasn't doing Freefly, health would definitely be one of them, because it's pretty damn meaningful to take a complex situation and distill it down into things that help people make actionable changes. Like the way I think about it right now is there's probably a big chunk of the world who would like to be better in some vector of their performance or wellness or weight, whatever, for looks, for health, whatever it is. They really would like to make a change there, but they don't have the tools to do so. They have the willpower, but they don't have the tools. There's a bunch of people that probably won't make a change. They don't care enough to do it. So if you can provide a framework for those people to succeed, that would be a pretty meaningful thing to do. And I think there's a lot of huge companies pointing at it and looking at it. I'm sure Apple wants to make a significant dent there and other places, but that's a super exciting place to live. I mean, even just in my own personal social world or social network and friend and family network, even just getting to like mention little things to them, and then you hear back 3 weeks later, like, hey, that made a big difference in my life. Like my girlfriend's mom, she went on a big European trip recently and tried intermittent fasting, and historically she's had tough time maintaining kind of her weight while traveling because there's so much good food, but she tried intermittent fasting and was able to like eat what she wanted to and enjoy things with her friends, but still not come back with like a bunch of work to do to like undo the hole that you've dug for yourself, which is really cool. It's like awesome. That's a nice hack. That is a great hack. I've never thought of it that way, because you do on vacation want to enjoy. Yeah. So you just compress it down. Yep. That's brilliant. Yeah. That's a good tip. That's fun to hear. That's awesome. So you were saying like providing people with a framework. Yeah. And that would mean maybe some sort of biometric device so that they can establish the framework themselves? Yeah, I mean, I think all the pieces kind of exist right now. You just got to assemble it together in a way that, whether it's a combination of HRV and continuous glucose monitoring and then an app that kind of gives you a framework. The way I like to think about it is like, think about your family members that would want to make a significant change in this space, and what kind of feedback would you need to give them? And I've got some other ideas on, what that might be. I don't know if I want to say them right. Yeah, we'll talk about it later. Speaking of feedback, so the Oura Ring gives some nice feedback. You mentioned heart rate variability, sleep scores, sleep architecture. What are your thoughts on using it? Oh, it's awesome. I really I wake up in the morning, I'm like, man, I wonder what the Oura thinks of that. I gotta check out my score and see how it's going.
And does it correlate with subjective sleep, like dream recall and everything else?
Yeah, it definitely correlates with the way I feel in the morning. Like, I kind of have like, man, I'm ready to tackle this day index, or not really. And definitely on the days when I've had low Oura sleep scores, I've not been my best. Like, definitely there was funny coming back from China because it was all over the place, you know, and I was like, yeah, I kind of feel like that. I did have the lowest HRV score I've ever had, I think on Sunday morning. This last week's I couldn't, no, it wasn't after China, it was just random Sunday morning. I don't know what happened.
Interesting.
Yeah,
maybe just, like you said, there's so much to go into it. And you know what, there was a lot of in the Seattle area that last week, oxygen density was probably not where it was because all the smoke from BC. So I wonder if that, a lot of people reported feeling fatigued, lethargic, lack of mental clarity.
Interesting.
Associated with that. So I wonder if that had anything to do with it. You know, in some of the walks that we've done, you've talked extensively about mouth taping, how it's really helped you personally. It's not for everyone, right? Because some people are just natural nose breathers and it doesn't impact them. So have you found that when you don't mouth tape, or have you ever not mouth taped since having the Oura ring?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you see a correlation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I won't say, it's not like a completely causal thing where I mouth tape and I get a good score, but I would say if I don't mouth tape, there are circumstances in which I'll do bad breathing practices and then I'll have a significant reduction in sleep quality and Oura score. If I forget, like sometimes I'll be reading and fall asleep and forget to do it, and I wake up in the morning and the first thought is like, oh man, I can't believe I forgot to mouth tape before I went to bed. Because I'm kind of perturbed because it's right there and it would have made me sleep better. So, and subjectively, when I mouth tape, I will snore 0% of the time. If I don't mouth tape, there is a chance that I could snore. So it was not a high percentage of time, but sometimes you get into a particular pose or something, something's going on with your sinuses and you start snoring. So nobody wants to be snoring.
No. When you first heard about mouth taping, were you like, I want to try this, or were you a little skeptical?
No, I was like, I want to try it. I don't know why people are so weird about it.
I know, it's weird.
I mean, people have wanted to do it to you your whole life. They want to put a piece of tape on your mouth. Just do it yourself and go to sleep. Give it a try.
It's not that big of a deal.
Not that scary.
You're not going to just
tear it off. You're not going to like, oh, I can't breathe.
It's so controversial.
It's really funny.
Yeah, but it's such a personal thing.
There's a lot more controversial things out there to think about.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. That's amazing. All right, so if you'd only do one exercise for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Hex bar deadlifts.
Yeah, those are good. You've been doing those quite a bit.
Yeah.
But you had low back pain earlier.
Yeah.
Or like an injury.
No, actually, I don't know if it actually would be that. I do love that lift. It'd probably be some squatting. I would want to activate the largest muscle groups I could, because I kind of view exercise as a way to deal with blood sugar. Like to soak up blood sugar. So I would say it's squats or hex bar deadlift.
Yeah. And a little small tip, I mean, if people have had back pain, like both of us, that's the way to deadlift. You know, the Romanian and sumo are great, but the hex bar, your chance of injury is very, very low.
I'm tall also. I'm 6'7", so like those type of lifts, I don't think I'm naturally predisposed to be great at. So I really try and stack the cards in my favor and not hurt myself.
Yes.
My number one thing I think about when I'm doing weight training is I want to come back and do this again in 4 days or 5 days or 7 days, whatever.
Yeah, that's a good thing to have, especially in your 30s, right? Yes. When you're 21, it's like whatever.
Yeah. You're invincible.
Yeah.
Now I need to go into work the next day.
Right. All right, so morning routine. We know high-power, successful people like yourself, CEO of a great company, have a set of things, rituals. Even Chase Jarvis did a great thing on his morning routine and rituals.
Yeah.
What do the first couple hours of your day look like?
I kind of have two different routines. One's the stay at home and work, and that's when I'm feeling the need for alone time and to crunch through a bunch of solitary work. And the other one is come in here and kind of get prepared for a day at Freefly. So I'd say what it does always involve, it involves some kind of learning, typically on my way to work. So listening to a podcast, listening to Audible, something like that, or listening to some kind of soothing music and trying to sort through my thoughts on what's important in the day. When I get into work, it's 10 to 20 minutes of meditation. That might be Headspace or Muse. Something like that, trying to just clear things out, get clear for a minute. And then I would say for the last couple of months, it's been journaling and actually blocking out. I'll block out my whole week time on Sunday using this kind of Google sheet that I have. And then I'll block it out in even more detail in my journal for that day. And it's pretty quick and rough. It just has the hours listed out, and I'll make rough notes. I'll block out, I'm going to go to the gym for this chunk. I'm going to do this and this chunk. And the thing I find useful is there are way too many things for me to do during the day. And if you don't actually put the things you're going to do to the hours you're going to do them, I'll put an unachievable amount of things on my to-do list. And then if you do that, that means that no matter how hard you work, at the end of the day, you feel like you've underachieved. You've underperformed, which is never a good way to end the day. But if you're diligent about blocking out and mapping tasks to slices of time, you at least, if you do a good job, you have the opportunity of achieving and doing well against your time slot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you feel like you hit those marks that you started the day wanting to anticipate.
And then usually after that, it's coffee, and I always make sure in my kind of first 2-hour chunk of the day, I don't do email or like any type of fast communication triage. I make sure that's for a significant chunk of work, that if that's all that I did that day, I would be proud of that day. So I tackle one big significant creative task in the morning.
That is really, really good tip.
Yeah, because so many days something terrible will happen and you get pulled in a bunch of different ways. But if, and typically that first 2 hour, I'm a pretty early guy, so that first 2 hour chunk for me is done early by, 8 or 9. I've already completed that chunk, and that one's behind me, tucked away. No one can take it away from me. It feels great.
So it's kind of like that, how the Navy SEALs would say, like, make your bed first thing in the morning, get a small win. So you're getting a big win by not being distracted with email and all the social media stuff.
For sure. And like especially email and social and all that stuff, you could spend the rest of your life doing it if you wanted to. And a lot of times, like, when you go on vacation and don't respond to people, they don't notice, they don't care. So you really have to guide yourself to the things that you, when you're in your alone time, think are important.
Yeah, it's almost like a form of procrastination for some people. When they really want to accomplish that big task, like you mentioned, they're like, well, I'm just going to check Instagram real quick or Facebook. And I've done it before too, and so I just sign out.
It's so easy to dive into those urgent things like that, that give you instant gratification, but it doesn't feel good at the end of the day.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
So you've been really regimented and diligent about not doing that, and that's helped.
Yeah, the journal's helped a lot too. I would say I started the journal before doing meditation. I was more towards the trend of like meditation is not going to help. That's foo-foo stuff. But then after starting to do it, I saw a significant benefit. And then I started journaling just to kind of jot down things I was thankful for, block the day out, things I was grateful for at the end of the day, lessons that I'd learned. That one was really helpful for me when I have like either a positive or a negative encounter in my life, and try and figure out what was my role in that encounter that sucked, what was my role that's good, and how can I write it down and internalize it. It was fun.
That's really cool. Did the Muse meditation headband kind of help facilitate meditation, or did you just?
Yeah, I would say it did help me. It did help me get going in meditation, because it was like a techie thing that I was interested in. I was like, I got to try this. So that led me to at least like get moving on it, and then start exploring that whole space a little bit more.
Yeah. What do you think about it ongoing?
It's great. I find it a little bit frustrating when I can't get to like kind of the feedback that I want to get to. So there are some days I can tell when my mind is a little bit too busy for me to do it. And usually on those days I'll tend to do just like an unguided meditation, or maybe I'll do Headspace guided meditation, just because I find I can get from like a crazy brain to a little bit more calm down brain with someone guiding me through something, rather than just getting thrown out into the middle of the city in Muse and having to figure out how to turn a traffic jam into birds chirping. Sometimes my brain can't really figure out how to make that transition in 10 to 20 minutes.
Right, and then you're focusing so much on the birds, or the lack of birds, that you're like, what's going on?
Where are the birds? They were here, like I got 397 birds in 20 minutes yesterday. I haven't heard
that's
a single,
amazing.
no, I mean,
that's a lot.
I haven't heard a single bird today. There's been a genocide.
Yeah, that's the only downside I would say. Or when you get a lot of birds, you're like, I want to keep it going, and then when the birds go away, you're like, wait, where'd they go? Wait, so you can focus too much on it. But I think it's a great way for people to physiologically feel what it feels like to be in that calm, meditative-like state.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, it could be a bridge, but also a great tool if you want to use it ongoing. So that's awesome. The other thing that I use the Insight Meditation Timer.
Okay.
So there's little noise there, and it has an element of social proof with it and social connection. So it will say 5,000 people are meditating with you, and then people can ping you and say, Tabb, thanks for meditating with me, or whatever.
That's cool.
So there's a little accountability there.
Nice.
But it's not, they do have guided, but it's also non-guided.
Cool.
But
I'm not going to be one of these people that won't try something new. I'll never tape my mouth closed.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Always try it. Yeah, you always want to learn and do something different.
Yeah.
Along those lines, so I know you're into supplements periodically when needed. One herb, nutrient, or botanical you just couldn't live without, what is it going to be?
I mean, for me, it's just high quality meat.
Yeah.
I feel like it takes care of everything for you.
You like it?
Yeah.
Because my wife and I have been eating less meat as of late due to the chickens.
It's crazy.
And so you were sending me some DMs on Instagram like, dude, what's up with that? So just the prospect of eating less meat, how does that make you feel?
I mean, I've had my whole world turned upside down in the health space so many times, I'd be willing to try whatever. Yeah. I just know that like for whatever reason, like right now, what's on my mind is cooking a huge steak when I get home.
Right.
It sounds very appealing.
That's all. Yeah. Hey, yeah. I mean, more power to you. I think everyone is so unique and different.
Yeah.
And listen to your body is the most important thing.
I guess on that trajectory, it's a lame answer, but it's really just. I guess I've never seen a big enough benefit with any one supplement that I would say like, oh, this thing was a game changer for me. Like I've never really I could never correlate anything to one particular thing that did a crazy amount for me. So I would say it's really just, I kind of like, actually the other thing is I like the idea of stripping things away rather than adding things in, because that's made a more meaningful impact for me, like, in the scheme of intermittent fasting and reduction in consumption and that kind of thing.
Dropping carbs.
Yeah, you learn a lot more from that about what you actually need than, I think if you're like way out of where you want to be, it's not going to help as much to start piling a bunch of stuff on and be like, oh, this is my leucine and this is my BCAA and this is you're probably at a place where you should reduce until you're having water and food infrequently.
Yeah, I agree 100%, except some people when you're traveling where there's a lot of stress or you have immune compromise, something like that, that's where supplements make a big.
If I had to pick one supplement, though, it's for sure fish oil, but that's already covered, right?
Yeah, and we talked. It's fine. No, that's good. Red meat. No one's actually ever said that.
Metformin.
We could talk. No, that's a good. I mean, a lot of people trash on drugs just on the principle that they're drugs.
Yeah.
But metformin is a really good drug.
Yeah.
And it changes your microbiome in a positive way. Your gut hormones, like it does a lot of really cool things.
Yeah.
So can't trash on it. All right, you're in an elevator with a politician, someone from the World Health Organization. You have 30 seconds to share with them a lifestyle tip that maybe could help the masses. What comes to mind?
Can I have two?
Yeah.
Two. My two would be stop eating. Just stop eating. Just stop eating for like 10 times longer than you think you should stop eating, and then you'll start to reset everything. And then can we please start disclosing financial interest in studies and other things in quote like health science that's going on these days. I think that would be very helpful for everybody to understand why certain information is flowing in the way it is, because it makes no sense. And for the average person that doesn't want to become an expert in this, how do you talk to them about the fact that they think they should be consuming vegetable oil over other oils? It's like, I don't know how to explain that to a family member, why our government would say that that's, or the Heart Association, whoever's saying it. I mean, it's just craziness. We need to disclose where the money's flowing. It's ridiculous that it's not.
Yeah, because the abstracts are made publicly available, yet those disclosures are not in the abstract. No. And that's just one step further.
Which to me is a complete conflict of interest.
Yeah, I mean, science is where we should be getting that objective information, that's not influenced and so forth.
The other thing is listen to people that have achieved whatever the thing is that you're after, whether it's body composition or performance. Listen to people that have achieved what you want to go after. Like, when I met Mike, I was like, I'd like to have a body composition like Mike. Thus, I weighted his feedback a little bit higher. I talked to Doug McGuff the other day. Like, I like the way Doug McGuff looks. If I looked like that when I was a little bit older, I'd be very happy. So, I like to listen to people that are walking the walk and have found success with whatever they're doing. It's a lot more interesting than a doctor who's much, very overweight telling me I shouldn't do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, don't do the ketogenic diet. It doesn't work.
I've actually flipped it around, but like, I think you should do the ketogenic diet. I'm concerned. Yeah, it didn't go well.
Yeah, because you're a self-taught guy. I mean, a lot of this, right? So it's got to be a little bit of a conflict for the doctor, or you're putting them in a weird position.
Yeah. Well, I think the other takeaway I've had is like, you're responsible for your own health. If you think that the current healthcare system feels any accountability or responsibility for your wellness or performance, that's just crazy. You're responsible for your own finances, you're responsible for your own health, you're responsible for your own success, and you got to dig in and learn this stuff and figure it out to the level that it takes to succeed. And there's plenty of people out there that are sharing, like, there's so much information out there if you want to consume it. It took me a month to like key in and figure out who were the people in the health space worth listening to. And I'd listen to every one of their podcasts. I've listened to every single podcast that you did. Not all of them were like my perfect subject matter, but in every single one of them, I definitely learned something that helped funnel this quest towards, better performance.
Yeah. And along those lines, you've even thought about being your own insurance company for Freefly.
Yeah.
Because then you could really save a lot of money.
For sure.
Because in financially incentivize health.
Yeah.
Instead of,
yeah,
mitigate disease and so forth. Have you progressed that at all? I know we
No.
just kind of talked about it, but
Nope.
yeah, I know a lot of employers are going that direction.
Yeah, it seems super interesting.
It's just how do you do it? You might need a consultant or something like that. But
Yeah.
it could be interesting. So Tabb, grateful for this conversation. Very, very grateful for you giving the High Intensity Health team the drone that we
Absolutely.
utilized. One day we got to mess around with the Movi. I don't know for sit-down interviews if it would make a difference from a cinematography perspective, but
Absolutely, got to keep the camera moving, Mike.
you could burn a lot of calories doing that, right?
Yeah, you carry a Movi all day.
Sam would have like 25-inch arms
Absolutely.
by the time. So I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah.
And
I'm super thankful for all the stuff I've learned from you over the time I've known you. So thanks. It's made a big difference.
Cool. So if people want to follow you, should it be on Freefly, or you also have your own personal Instagram account if people want to connect with you?
Either one.
Okay.
Freefly is a super fun one to follow. If you want to see a little bit more wild stuff, go to my one.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of fun.
We have a lot of fun.
Yeah. in a cool way. It's like the van behind us. We'll maybe show it in the B-roll. So thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.